as well as Linux. But I run it in Windows. So this is how the homepage looks like. These are the apps that you can install in Splunk. Well, like Splunk, there are a couple of other tools you may find. Because you may ask this question to me, or you might have this question in mind. That why do we need to learn Splunk? What is the need? Because there are a couple of other tools as well. Like if you Google, you'll find out that there is a tool called Negio. There is a tool called Elasticsearch. So these are the close competitors of Splunk. But personally, I mean, people like that using them as well. So I would suggest you check them out as well. Personally, what I like Splunk because Elasticsearch, both Elasticsearch and Nagios, these tools, they work on most of the command line. They do not have, most of the activities or most of the configurations, you cannot do it from the UI. You need to go to the command, you need to change the configuration files or run some commands or queries. I mean, basically command line forms, not the, you cannot do it so much. That is the problem. And we have to configure things using just mouse, right? So in Splunk, if you see here on the screen, on the type corner, if you can follow my mouse, is the setting button, and most of the things, I wouldn't say most, but yeah, there are a lot of things that you can configure here. So if you are the administrator or if you have the administrator right, you can configure a lot of things from here, at least for your standalone machine. So yeah, that reminds me one thing. In Splunk, how things work. So here, let me go back. I told you about the Google for log files and all. So let's come to this point. Stores and indexes log data. Right? It is easy to say that okay, you could store it, but I'm sorry. Did you have a question?
Stores what? The data? You mean the data?
Yeah, store the data. Yes. So any data, any machine data that you create, you need to store it first, right? So think about a flowchart. For example,
Before you say it stores 475 GB.
right?
You said that it stores 475 GB before you, I mean, at the starting.
Yeah, 475 GB for my client, not
For?
for my the system that I work with. So Splunk can be different, right? So for you, your version of okay. For example, if you're working for an e-commerce company and I'm working for a bank, right? So your system can generate more logs or less logs than my system. For example, if I'm working with a small bank, I may not have that much of user base, so I may not see that much of activity in my whole system. So my logs will be less, right? But if you're working in Amazon, or if you're working in Alibaba, then you will have a huge customer base, and every minute or every second you will have a huge log being updated. So your log files, or your log file volumes, or your amount of data may be different than my amount of data, right? If I'm working based on my user activity, I'm just taking and my net. I'm just taking only the customers. I'm not considering your internal users. I'm just looking for the customers. But even your internal users can, use Splunk for their own activity or the own monitoring or testing. For example, if you're suppose for Amazon, you are working in the inventory management or the store management. So I will have my different set of logs. If I'm working on the store management, I will have to check the inventory management. I will have to keep the counts, and I'll also have to check how much of data being pushed into the inventory and how much of data being taken out of the inventory. So for all these, I need to keep the logs, and most of the time nowadays, system automatically keeps the log that okay, this product ID has been taken out of the inventory, and so now the product count is this, and then if it goes below the threshold level or the warning level, it will alert the inventory manager saying that okay, this product is is soon going to be out of the stock, so please make sure you have enough stock of it. So you go and push it back. So this so system automatically keeps track of it, right? So it will create a log. Now we store all of this in a Splunk system. So that your point is correct. Yes, we store 475 GB. Now you have to remember 475 GB is a limit. That every day we can store this or we can store and index this much of data. But doesn't mean that we get 475 GB every day. On an average, I think we get around 400 or 350 to 400 GB every day, not 475. But that is the higher limit, highest limit. So now about storage, it stores the data, but that may bring a second question that do we really store all the data forever, whole lifetime? No, we don't. It is really not an easy job to store the 475 GB of data every day. So what we do is we store for around. I mean, we can change the data for every type of data, but change the time for every type of data. But normally for some of the logs, we store it for 3 months. For some of the logs, we store it for 6 months, and for some critical logs, like my client is an online merchandise system, so it's an Apple system and in US. So those who know those who stay in US, you might be knowing about the Black Friday. So
Yeah.
what we do is we store the data from last Black Friday. I mean, only for a couple of important type of logs, we store the data from last Black Friday to this Black Friday, just to check the record for last year's sales against this year's sales. So that is what we do. So we store the data from for 1 year, actually, approximately a little more than 1 year, but not for all type of logs, only for the critical ones, which store the sales or the marketing. So, and for the rest of the thing, rest of the type of logs, we price them after 3 months or 6 months. But if you want, you can store them as well. And I'll show you when you actually start those sections. Since I'm just giving you the overview, so we may not cover that, but at least you will have some idea about how we handle things here. Uh, User architecture, let's not go into that. I will show you here.
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
Splunk mainly we can store the data, right?
It's not a database. So don't compare this as a database. It is about storing the data temporarily.
Okay.
Okay. Because after 3 months, let's say after 3 months, if you want to retain the data, you can run a script which will archive your data, or you can what do you say? You can store your data in a database. So Splunk, since it's a huge data, right? It's a very huge amount of data. So you may not be able to store the data forever because that will eat up your license or that will eat up your disk space, right? And your system will be slowed down. So yes, we store the data, but for temporary period. We do not store the data forever. Like we cannot store 1 petabyte of data forever, right? So after 3 months, you will have to